Come unto Lord Krishna. I am all these common men. Manyate, do speculate within the mind. Loka, the conditioned souls. He certainly, asangam, unattached. Api, in spite of, sanginam, affected. Atma, self. Aupayena, by comparison with the self. Manujam, ordinary man. Vyapribanam, being engaged in. Yata, because. Abuddha, foolish because of ignorance. Translation and purport. Divine grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached. The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance. They think that the Lord is affected by matter. Although he is unattached. The word Abuddha is significant here. Due to ignorance only, the foolish mundane wranglers misunderstand the Supreme Lord and spread their foolish imaginations amongst innocent persons by propaganda. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is the original primeval personality of Godhead, and when he was personally present before the eyes of everyone, he displayed full-fledged divine potency in every field of activity. As we have already explained in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is completely independent to act however he likes, but all his actions are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Only the foolish mundaners misunderstand him, unaware of his eternal form of knowledge and bliss, which is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishad. His different potencies work in a perfect plan of natural sequence, and doing everything by the agency of his different potencies, he remains eternally the supreme independent. When he descends from the material world by his causeless mercy to different living beings, he does so by his own potency. He is not subject to any condition of the material modes of nature, and he descends as he is originally. Mental speculators misunderstand him as the Supreme Person, and they consider his impersonal features as inexplicable Brahman to be all. Such a conception is also the product of conditioned life, because they cannot go beyond their personal capacity. Therefore, one who considers the Lord on the level of one's limited potency is only a common man. Such a man cannot be conceived. Such a man cannot be convinced that the personality of Godhead is always unaffected by the modes of nature. He cannot understand that the sun is always unaffected by infectious matter. The mental speculators compare everything from the standpoint of experimental knowledge of their own selves. Thus, when the Lord is found to act like an ordinary person in matrimonial bondage, they consider him to be like one of them, without considering that the Lord can marry at once 16,000 wives or more. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they accept one side of the picture while disbelieving the other. This means that due to ignorance only, they always think of Lord Krishna as like themselves and make their own conclusions, which are absurd and unauthentic from the version of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitami Vittadi Swayam Rupagadapmakam Dadadishvapakam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Vittadi Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Bodhavani Pracharine Virabhishesha Shuddhipati Paschati Vishuddhari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this verse, the previous verses explain, 2 verses before, which I just looked at, explains that everything that Krishna does in this world is due to his internal potency. There is no external potency. Krishna does not come in contact with the external potency. Although he's within the material atmosphere, he never has anything to do with matter. Once the Lord Vishnu touches matter, then he becomes Shiva. Just like when a space capsule enters into the Earth's atmosphere, there's a big kind of a glow and sparks and heat. So also when the Lord enters into this material world and comes in contact with it, he becomes Shambhu, effulgence or some glaring, otherwise you'd be transformed. So, but there can be no Krishna or Vishnu in touch with the modes of material nature. That's the first point. And so, there are many descriptions in previous verses, and especially the previous verse, which says, that Krishna sometimes even though he's here, he like wanders off into the forest or something sometimes, especially now that he's grown, and so he, especially in Dwarka, he can sometimes have something to do. So. No, still not in the right person. So then he came back. Now he's coming back from Mathura to Dwarka, and everyone is so blissful. And there are many descriptions of the queens, the ladies, the queens, because in the 10th canto, where Krishna enters the arena of Kamsa. So he enters, and this Chanura and Mustika, they're waiting to pounce on Krishna. And when he enters into that arena, then Malapaharanam, that the wrestlers see Krishna like thunderbolts, and Naravara and Rinam, and ordinary men see him as the best of men, the best gentleman. And Smaranam Srimurtinam. And the women see him as the transcendental Cupid. So that was spoken about in the previous verse. It says Krishna comes in. He was very sober, even though the queens were looking at him with sidelong glances. No? Sidelong. Why do we always say this sidelong glance? Why not? Because a sidelong glance means that someone is inferring something. Otherwise, they're being very proper queens or ladies, but they're looking at Krishna, and that sidelong glance means they're inviting Krishna to come and be with me. So, beautiful smiles and furtive glances. And although they could conquer Cupid himself, just the queens themselves could conquer Cupid. But Cupid was amazed that even before he shot his arrows, that these queens were like totally enamored with Krishna. And then when he saw Krishna and his beauty and his attraction toward the queens, he just dropped his bow, gave up. What can I do? There's no room for me here. So otherwise, that esoteric understanding, Cupid, before Krishna, he has no stance, he has no ability. And of course, before Shiva, he better watch out because Shiva burns him to ashes. So actually, he doesn't want to be around the Supreme, but he has nothing to do. He has nothing to do because his arrows are rendered useless by this love, because this love is not ordinary, it is prema. So in the previous verse, all these manifestations of prema, they have nothing to do with the material world. And then it says, despite their magical feats, otherwise, what is the word? Kuhakai. Despite their magical feats or their deceptive behavior, meaning any behavior on the material platform will have no effect on Krishna. But they did have an effect. Otherwise, by their prema, they were attracting Krishna. And Krishna was reciprocating. But by something that's seen as deceptive, as tricky, of course that also exists between Krishna and the gopis, but not so much in Dwarka. Otherwise, to be tricky with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, that's normal. But to be tricky with Krishna in Dwarka, that's not permitted. So therefore, when we speak about someone being deceptive, it must be materialistic people, and therefore that's what generates this verse. That's why this verse has been spoken. Because here, Sutta Goswami wants to make sure that no one is bewildered by the fact that these queens are smiling, even though it mentions that Krishna is unaffected. It means that he's unaffected materially, and therefore this verse says, common materialistic conditioned souls, which in the verse is Abuddha, Abuddha, Loka, Manyate, Manyate Loko, people who have ordinary mentality, and then it adds on, just to make sure if we didn't catch it the first time, Abuddha, that they're ignorant. They're ignorant, they're foolish, even though they may be great scientists, great philosophers. As Prabhupada mentions, that people who don't want to believe in Krishna and who are very determined not to believe in Krishna, then Matashmita Jnana Pohanam Cha, Krishna is the source of all happiness. Krishna is the source of all everything. And Krishna's external energy will empower them, so they will be able to with superb intelligence, make up all kinds of arguments to bewilder the minds of people. So one may think, well, what kind of an arrangement is that? Krishna should make it easy. But pure love of Krishna is not easy. It's described by Rupa Goswami as sudurlabha. Very difficult to obtain. You can't just attain the mercy of Krishna by some, magic or some. No, you can only do it by pure devotional service. And when there's not pure devotional service, then these foolish people, all their intelligence, because they have the potency. The spirit soul has potency. And that potency, Krishna gives them extra potency. Just like at the end of his pastimes, Krishna creates a material form of himself and leaves that form there as if it were struck by an arrow. The arrow, even though it's a material form, the arrow just barely touches him. And actually the arrow, it's said by our Acharya that the arrow comes to offer obeisances. Therefore it touches Krishna's lotus feet to offer him obeisances. And even though it's an arrow, the hunter sends the arrow to kill him, but the arrow immediately, in coming close to Krishna, encounters Krishna's potency, becomes purified and offers obeisances right there at his lotus feet. So then, and even the hunter became totally disturbed. He saw first he thought it was a deer because by bewilderment, Krishna's pinkish lotus feet. If you look at a foot of someone, especially Krishna, it might look like the face of a deer. So that's what he saw. He saw the lotus foot, and then he saw Krishna. He was bewildered. How could I do this? And of course, nowadays people kill each other and no problem. Even though great battles like Kurukshetra, where there was 18 Akshinis of soldiers, when Jarasandha went to kill Krishna, he had 24 Akshinis, which means how many millions and millions and millions and millions of soldiers. But still, they couldn't defeat Krishna. So this present verse that we're considering, it says, he is unaffected by matter, although they think that he is affected by matter, although he is unattached, because he has nothing to do with matter, but they're seeing him. Even when an ordinary person sees Krishna within the material atmosphere, then the ordinary person who's seeing Krishna is not really seeing the same thing. Krishna becomes visible to them externally speaking, because otherwise, it would be bewildering. They would see this whole army following somebody that's not there. So Krishna is visible to them, but he's not visible to them at the same time. So there's so many. Why can't these people see Krishna? So Krishna himself said, "Abhajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashitaha." When Krishna takes the form of like a human being, but it's not really like a human being. The human being form is like Krishna's eternal form. But it says it like that. That when he takes that form, then these people, they think that he's just an ordinary conditioned soul. Param bhavam ajananto. They cannot understand param bhava. Now, param bhava can mean Krishna's transcendental nature, just like in Bhagavad Gita. Just wanted to look up one verse that I can't remember. Idam jnanam upashritya. I'm not Swami, I don't have the whole Bhagavad Gita memorized, so look things up. The second verse of Idam jnanam upashritya mamasdaram agataha. That when one attains the nature of Krishna, in this sense, the nature of Krishna means when one attains the spiritual identity. But here, in that verse, param bhavam can also understand. They can never enter into the bhava of Krishna. They can never enter into his mood, into his understanding, and to his internal manifestation. Never. Ajananto, those who are bewildered, whose intelligence is totally bewildered. Mama Bhuta Maheshwara. They cannot understand that he is the controller of all living entities and the supreme controller of everything that exists. And then, of course, previous to that, Krishna says that these people, as it mentions here in the purport, that speculators, they consider him impersonal. So Krishna, to clear that up, abhyaktam vyaktim apanam, that abhyaktam, from the unmanifested, vyaktim apanaha, they think that the person, my personality came about. Manyate mam abudaya. Abudaya, the same thing here. Abudaya, Krishna says. Those who have no intelligence whatsoever. They think that Krishna has, that the Brahman has, created this Krishna form or Vishnu form, and they exist for some time, maybe one whole cycle. They can exist for a longer time than me, but ultimately there's no difference between myself and Krishna. And this is why Srila Prabhupada, whenever he heard that, he would become very angry. He didn't tolerate the impersonal. What to speak of Bhakti? Why didn't he? We can think nowadays, we kind of hang out sometimes with them materially, in one sense. We go to their program, we be nice to them. Prabhupada would have never done that. Why do we do it? Because they're not hardcore impersonalists. If somebody's a hardcore impersonalist, you must challenge them. But these are like New Age, little mixture of New Age, little, Mayavad philosophy. It's like that girl that was there from India yesterday. She has a little Mayavad, she doesn't really know what's what. So, and even you go to a yoga studio, they've all been introduced to Mayavad philosophy. But they don't really understand it, and it's not like a firm conviction. But when it's someone's firm conviction, then a devotee must act. You cannot tolerate, a devotee cannot tolerate that kind of blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of God. One time, I was in search of a camera. Like you have a little camera, but this is a big camera like this. And one devotee, did you spend any time in Vrindavan? So did you ever meet Bhakti Siddhanta, the sculptor? Yeah, so when first time I went to India with my temple president, Bhakti Siddhanta said, "Oh, you're in Costa Rica. I have a camera that's this big, and it was worth like $10,000 when in 1976, $10,000 was like $40,000 nowadays." So we thought, wow. So temple president sent me to find the camera, and so it was supposed to be with a man named Captain Cook, and so we went to see him. They said, "No, he moved to the jungle." And so temple president said, we said, "Where in the jungle?" "Oh, he's on the river." That's all the information. So he said, "Go find him." Okay. So I went to the river, which is on the border between Nicaragua and Costa Rica. And that, like a border, there's all kinds of weird people, illegal stuff going on. So I took a bus. Of course, the temple president didn't give me any money. So I had to hitchhike on a bus. I just told him I'm a monk and I have to go on my mission. So finally the bus driver said, "Okay." So then I got closer and I said, "How do I get to the river?" "You have to take a donkey, a mule." "Oh." So, okay. I didn't have any money, so I had to beg him again. So finally I had to wait for some people to go so it would be worthwhile that he would spare one mule for me. So I went with this group of people to the river. Then I had to get a boat. And then I started asking people on the river. I got a boat, started going down there. I said, "Do you know Captain Cook?" "Oh yeah, he lives down that way, me like 2 days to get there. Finally got to me, and I found out he lived in a tree. He had a tree house. And so I climbed up the tree and knocked on there was no door, but knocked on the wall. Who goes there? And so I said, Guru Prasad. Who's that? So I stuck my head up. And I said, I'm a Hare Krishna. I said, oh, I didn't know they existed, And so, I came in there and I had to spend the night. And then so I said, well, what about the camera? Oh, I gave that camera to one lady in Guatemala. I had to spend the night with her. And the whole next day until finally a boat came by. I got the boat, went back, took the mule, took the bus, went to the highway, hitchhiked all the way to Guatemala, Costa Rica, which took me about a day and a half. Then I got to Guatemala, and from his direction, she lived somewhere on this lake, Atitlan. So I had no money, so I just had to sleep on the lake and bathe on the lake. And then I thought, how am I going to find this lady? So then I heard some, sounded like kirtan. So I went up, and it was this kind of impersonalist. He had all these students, young American, European students, and they were all playing different instruments. So I came in, and he looked at me like, and so I picked up the instrument. There was some session was going on, played along with them. Then we stopped. He said, "You want to stay for breakfast?" I said, "I'm Hare Krishna." Yes, I know the Hare Krishna. He said, real quickly, I know the Hare Krishna. So then he said, "I can stay for breakfast." So anyway, they put bread and some other things in. So I started offering it. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm offering it to Krishna." He said, "There's no need for that here, because here we understand Krishna is just light and energy." And I said, "Well, that's not what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. No. Krishna says he is the supreme person." No. And so then he said, No. Krishna is energy. I said, "No, Krishna is a person." So all the students are there, and then like a ping pong match. And then finally I said a few verses from Bhagavad Gita. He goes, words. No. And he said, "In the absolute there are no words." And I said, "If there's no words, then why are you speaking?" No. He was getting angry. And I said, "You say there's no words, why do you speak? No. What's the use of speaking if there's no words? No. We must use our words to try to approach the Supreme." And I said, "If there's no words, why not? If you say the Supreme is everything and everything is the Supreme, then why don't you just go and eat stool? Because it's all Supreme. You know? Why do you bother fixing all this bread and everything? Just eat stool, because it's all one." So he got really angry. He said, he started cussing at me. He said, "Get out of here. You Hare Krishnas are always like this." And I said to the students, "We have a temple in Costa Rica. You want to stay here with this fool who doesn't even know what he's talking about?" And they all got up and came out with me. He was screaming at the doorway. I took away all of his students. I took them, and then I finally found the lady, and she said, "Oh, I sold that camera." But anyway, I got all these nice young people, and we all hitchhiked back to Costa Rica. The point is, when you meet a Mayavadi who's like that, who denies and defies Krishna, then you have to, no tolerance. So this, so that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And then he says, previous to that, so he says that, they're a Buddhaya. They have no intelligence, no understanding. And he says the same thing again, previous to the verse I just quoted, that Param Bhava Majananto Lokomam. I'm sorry. He says, Mamadhyayam Anuttamam. They don't know me, my supreme nature, that I am inexhaustible, and that I am the perfect, the perfection of everything. They don't know this. And then Krishna says, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yoga Maya Samamritaha. My energy keeps them from seeing this. And this is what this verse is saying here. My energy keeps them from seeing this. They cannot see that who I am. That very foolish people. Mudho yam abhajanati. This time Krishna says heavier. They are fools. They're mudhas. Because they're fools, they cannot see me. Loko mam ajam abhyaya, who is unborn and inexhaustible. So Krishna says again and again throughout the Bhagavad, he makes it very clear. These people, later on in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that this impersonal path, this trying to understand Krishna through his energy, is a very difficult thing to do. What to speak? They can't understand Krishna's external energy with the three modes of nature. What to speak of understanding Krishna's internal energy? They can never understand that. And therefore, they can't understand when something like this happens. The impersonalists will say, oh, Krishna's just an ordinary person. And then they go one step farther. And look, Krishna has these beautiful wives and these nice girlfriends. So I should also, it says one should follow in the footsteps of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore I will follow his footsteps. But they don't follow his footsteps as Giridhari, holding up Govardhan. Those footsteps, they're not interested in. Just the Gopijana Vallabha footsteps. So such persons can never understand. And therefore Srila Prabhupada says here in the purport, therefore Krishna, he manifests his potency even as far as these loving relationships by having 16,000 and more, as many more wives. He has 16,108 wives just when he comes to this planet. But he has unlimited wives in Dwarka, and they're all happy. As Prabhupada said one time, imagine if each wife had to wait one night, or say if he spent one night with each wife, then the wife would only see him every 15 years. So, she gets one chance. By the time she gets around, then she'll be too old anyway to even be a nice wife. So this foolishness. And these people, but they don't give up. They don't give up. They think themselves, as the Bhagavatam says, they think themselves liberated. They're not liberated, but they think they're liberated. No? Vayastabhava Abhishuddha Buddhayo, because they have impure intelligence. With that impure intelligence, just like so many people think so many things about themselves in the modern world. Everybody, and modern psychology says, that's great. Think of yourself as the greatest. That's modern psychology. Our psychology is amanina manidina. Even when I tried to explain that yesterday to that lady, what's her name? Fariba. She was saying, no, but I want to be, I want recognition. So, that's the material world. I want recognition. I want to be recognized. Of course, everyone needs a little psychological boost in this material world, unless you're a pure devotee. Because a pure devotee doesn't need for anyone to glorify them, because a pure devotee is so satisfied by glorifying Krishna. No, glorifying me is just like, it's like it becomes uncomfortable. Somebody says something about, when I'm totally engaged in glorifying Krishna, Krishna's so wonderful, and then someone says something like that, it's just such a stark downgraded contrast that they just think, well, why are they speaking something about he? Madhavendra Puri, this was his mood. Madhavendra Puri, when when Gopinath became very merciful to him, and Kirchur Gopinath hid away the sweet rice or the condensed milk, and then appeared in the dream of the Pujari and said, "Take this milk that I've hidden behind myself to Madhavendra Puri." And Pujari woke up, it's just a dream. But then he thought, such a vivid dream. Let me go and find out. So he just went on the altar. There it was. And he grabbed it immediately. He ran into the marketplace. "Where is Madhavendra Puri? You have received the mercy of Gopinath. Where is Madhavendra? Where is Madhavendra?" So Madhavendra thought, couldn't be me. No. But then he kept saying, "Madhavendra." No. And so he came out, and the Pujari explained what happened. Madhavendra fainted in ecstasy. And he took that sweet rice and he started taking little by little. And it was so good. And then it was so much nectar that he broke up the pot, smashed it to pieces, and put it in a cloth. And every day he would eat a bite of the pot. Whereas you couldn't do that with modern aluminum pots. Otherwise, by the time you finished the pot, you'd be dead. But if you could even smash it up, grind it up. And then Madhavendra thought, let me leave here immediately. Because when people hear about this, they're going to come and glorify me. So Madhavendra took off toward Jagannath Puri to complete his mission. And when he came to Jagannath Puri, and there was no internet at that time, but still, it must have been Krishna within the heart. That's the best internet. Then everybody waiting, big reception. All glories to Madhavendra Puri, the favorite devotee of Kirchur Gopinath. He had to accept it. So a devotee thinks, but modern psychology, yes, builds us up. We're so important, we're so great. And these foolish people, as it says here, they want that. That's why they have difficulty in glorifying Krishna, because they want to be glorified. As long as you want to be glorified, how can you glorify Krishna? So these persons Vishuddha Bhatta and Aruya Kuchjana Param Tata. They do so many austerities and penances. Like yesterday, that girl kept saying, "No, we do some austerities." No, you don't need to do austerities and penances. But they do them. What happens? Patantino nadrita yusmarandaraha. Because they don't have the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're ultimately bewildered. And they simply come back to this material world, as Srila Prabhupada said, because the soul is active, they have to do some activity, so they start a hospital, or they do this, or they help people. So, downgraded. Again, another downgrade. They could be pure devotees, but no, because they can't worship Krishna properly. They can't understand that He is the Supreme Personality of God. These people, as Srila Prabhupada says here, they just want to speculate. Atapihi deva param bhujam gaya Prasad leshanugrihite vehi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno achanya vekopi chiram vichinvan. That when one receives the two lotus feet of Krishna on his head, then he understands this is a very special mercy. And understanding that very special mercy is the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who, they may read a lot, they may study a lot, they may know so many things about the Vedas, but they will never reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they can only speculate. And it implies here in this verse, as a last point, that Krishna is doing everything through his potencies. He's supremely independent, as it says here. He remains eternally independent. Swarat, Srila Prabhupada refers to the first canto. He's Swarat. He's perfectly, completely independent and perfect in every sense. But he does things through his different potencies. And it says here, a perfect plan of natural sequence. So what is that perfect plan of natural sequence? By his potencies. Famous verse from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, that Tasya karyam karanam vidyate, that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that position implies one thing: he has nothing to do in this world. He has no obligation. No one can be a good second, what to speak of being an equal to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has unlimited energies. He's so independent that he doesn't have to do anything, but all of his energies are acting. Internal energy to fill the hearts of his devotees with prema and with loving, ecstatic devotion, so that there can be a constant reciprocation between Krishna and them. And swabhaviki jnanabala kriyacha. And all of the manifestations of his knowledge, jnanabala, his force, kriya, and his activities within this world are being manifested by the external nature. And the internal nature too, because he cannot be within the external nature. So the external and internal potencies manifest everything in this world. And so then it becomes possible that Krishna can be here and not be here. This is a combination of the internal and external energy. That the internal energy always surrounds Krishna, but the external energy manifests and makes it seem like that there's something material going on. And only those who have unalloyed devotion for Krishna can see through this veil of external energy, and because they're being guided by the internal energy, and therefore they can relate to Krishna. Sometimes they work together, because sometimes Krishna is speaking to externally motivated people. So they're perceiving Krishna through the external energy, although Krishna is manifesting whatever he says through the internal energy. Like there may be Arjuna, the Pandavas, just like when in the Rajasuya Yajna, then there was Krishna and the Pandavas. They're all controlled by the internal energy. But then there were so many people controlled by the external energy. So they're working together. And they do these things sequentially and perfectly. That's how his energies work. So this is Krishna. And by his Chit Shakti, special function of his Chit Shakti, because even his Chit Shakti is under his direct control. But the Chit Shakti has an aspect to it, which is the loving relationship of the gopis of Vrindavan, the queens of Dwarka. They have the potency to bring out that aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is, internal potency is working, creating a situation of prema. This is a special function, because the chit energy alone, it doesn't affect Krishna, even though it's spiritual, but it doesn't affect, he controls it. But that particular part of the Chit Shakti, which is Yoga Maya, that Yoga Maya, Krishna's leelas, Krishna's qualities are seen by his devotees, and no one else can see them without having that transcendental these are some thoughts on this verse. Any questions, comments?
Thank you for the class. It was the last thing you went over, your last point. I just found that last sentence in the first part of the purport is really, really amazing. Different potencies work in a perfect plan of natural sequence and doing everything by the agency of his different potencies. It remains eternally the supreme independent. There's just so much substance. I don't know, just a comment, it just really kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
Very poetic.
Srila Prabhupada.
Right like that.
Yeah. Well, as Prabhupada said many times, I'm not writing it. Krishna's writing it. Only Prabhupada can say that. Krishna may inspire us, just like Krishna, through his different potencies, inspired this lady to paint all kinds of very colorful things. But his internal potency inspires us to serve him.
What was the question you asked Swami one time when he said that we should get more in tune with Bhagavatam? But that's kind of relevant to it.
What was the difference between realized knowledge and direct knowledge? I mean, if somebody gives a class and they, the Prabhupada used to give a class and then everybody's really into it, everybody's present and they get the message. And if somebody was to impersonate Prabhupada, have all the mannerisms, intellects and the whole thing, and do exactly the same class, it wouldn't have the same effect. So what's missing?
Well, it's not that they wouldn't have the same effect, although certainly Prabhupada's purity would always create something that none of us can equal. But a devotee may be inspired, to say something very wonderful. Say things even beyond what Srila Prabhupada explained, if they can do it properly, in the mood of Srila Prabhupada, preserving the desire of Srila Prabhupada. They may be able to say things. Actually, Prabhupada said, the greatest pleasure of the spiritual master is to see his disciple become more advanced. Not that I think that anyone has become more advanced than Prabhupada, but someone may, in some area of explanation or of knowledge or something, someone may say things that Prabhupada didn't say. Of course, we have to see if that's appropriate. And there's no ego, there's no thought, well, I'm going to do better than Prabhupada. I'm going to go beyond Prabhupada. And people have done that, but not in our movement. Or if they have in our movement, they don't last very long.
But specifically, how does that purity actually function? Well, what's the actual science behind it?
Purity brings, when we're pure, then Krishna reveals himself. He may reveal himself in the form of Paramatma. He may reveal himself in the form of instructions from the spiritual master or from other Vaishnavas. And then those instructions or those indications give us something that we didn't have before. And because of our purity. Because otherwise somebody may say something and you'll forget it. If the purity is not there, then memory of things that are created by the internal potency really only functions when we're pure. Otherwise it doesn't stay, and it may just kind of goes in one ear, out the other. Whenever there's a mixture of false ego or intellectual wrangling, then the manifestation is not pure.
An audience may have reservations when they listen to a certain speaker.
Who may have reservations?
The audience, just the general audience of the speakers. But with Prabhupada, the reservations, or is he able to put through to... I think back to Swami, what he said is that the speaker, if he's on the realized platform, he would put through to Paramatma. Paramatma would allow the audience to receive the pure knowledge, the pure
Yes, that can happen. But we see many people that Prabhupada spoke to, and they didn't understand what he was talking about. No. So, it's not such an easy thing that you can just, you can woo an audience by knowledge or by charisma or by presenting something that they just never heard. But then that doesn't last. What lasts is when the real purity is there. Then it lasts and it penetrates. But even then, there's so many people that Prabhupada met that were fascinated by Prabhupada, but then a few days later they forgot about it. So the effect is there. The seed is planted, but it may not sprout in this lifetime. But we should try to do that. We should try to, that's why we give people books. Even if you gave them an electronic copy of the books, then it's not as meaningful as getting a book, because the book is there, physically it's there, it's waiting for you, it's calling you, it's beaconing you. You put your electronic copy in with the 10 other million things that you have, and then you may never see it again. Is that okay?
Yeah. I have another question. I think the previous text was saying that
I didn't read it. He
was afflicted by the arrows of
Yes.
and just then he was allured by the form of Mohini. But if this is transcendental Leela, then why would these materialistic arrows of lust, why would you have a part to play in that?
Well, in that sense, Cupid, in that sense, was, inspired by Mohini Murti to do that, to show the example that even a great personality, the greatest Vaishnava, can be affected by her, because she's the Supreme Personality of God in feminine form. So, that's why. Well, Cupid was empowered by Mohini Murti. Even compute, but she can't do that to the pure devotees who are situated in this kind of loving relation. Like, what is Lord Shiva's loving relationship with Krishna? Basically, it's a meditative one. And he's not meditating on Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan, he's meditating on Sankarshan. So therefore, that happened in that way. Okay. Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Panchatattva ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.